Well, good evening. My name is Jim Kello. Welcome to New Tracks. This is where mentors can help modelers build. Thank you so much for coming this evening. We really do appreciate it. Hope you enjoy the program that we've got for you tonight. And again, I've dropped all of my papers, so pardon me just a minute here. Thank you so much for coming. And if you get a chance to mention this to your friends, we would appreciate it. Because perhaps they would also like to join us and have some fun with seeing what we're doing with the show. If you're new to the show, please go to our website and subscribe so that you're able to get the login information about our future shows. It's easy to do. It's right visible on our website. And when you subscribe, you'll get an email from us that you'll have to confirm that you received. And then from that point on, you'll get all of the emails and so forth about the future shows and what we're doing. Plus, you'll be able to qualify to participate with the door prizes that we get from time to time. So with that said, I need to say something about Ed King. As you know, Ed's been running the shows for some time. He's done a fantastic job, in my opinion, and I'm sure you all agree. But Ed now is an employed person who has to worry about his new career more than our show. So he wants to take off a month to get settled in and then consider coming back and joining us. But Ed, thank you so very much for everything you've done. We all wish you the best in your new job and look forward to whenever you can join us. I hope you can not hesitate. And since you're not getting the automatic emails anymore, we hope you'll subscribe to the website. So thanks so much for everything that you've done.
You're very welcome, Jim.
We need a lot of help running these shows. Like I say, Ed was part of it for a long time. But we need people that can work with Jamie Bothwell on the website. If you can just simply post items that have been written to the website, that's the kind of help that he needs. If you have even more experience with websites, he could certainly use that help. And if you think that you might be able to help us a little bit, please contact Jamie. And he's listed as the webmaster on the website is how you can easily reach him. Ken and Phil do the work on producing the shows right now since Ed has left us. And naturally, they need backup and they need help doing some of the items that's involved with running the show. So if you'd like to be a part of that, then please let me know about it and I'll put you in touch with Ken and Phil, and you all can decide the best way for you to participate. Keep in mind, when we started this show about 15 months ago now, this was meant as a participation show. It was never meant to be a show where people could come on, log in and relax for a couple of hours and have somebody else do all the work. This was meant to be modelers helping modelers, particularly helping us build models, but also just helping us produce the show so that other people can show what they're doing. And that's what this was created for. And we need some help. So hope that you'll be able to participate a little bit to help us out here. I'd like to spend a minute or two talking about the upcoming build-alongs, which I believe are an important part of the show these days. The first one that we have coming up new starts September the 1st and runs through October the 6th. And that's Rick and Marie Hunter of Hunterline building an 81-foot trestle in two different versions. And we have the complete information about it on our website. They've got some great pricing, including some of their stains. And Ultimation is also giving a $20 discount off of their product if you are build along with Rick and Maureen's trestle. They're going to be using Al's machine, I understand, in a considerable way to get all of the cuts made properly on the trestle. And for those of you that are interested in this, you might want to, if you don't already have one of Al's machines, consider it. Rick is also, before you decide which one of the two trestles to buy, he really thinks that you ought to talk to him about it and talk to him about how you plan to use the trestle on your layout. He has an awful lot of experience with prototype trestles, and he can give you some real guidance, and he's more than happy to do it. His telephone number is 866-934-4174. His email is rick@hunterline.com. So if you're interested in that, please give him a call as soon as you can so that you're sure to get the product before Marie starts building it on September the 1st. Next, we have Martin Brechbiel, who's an MMR, is building a Leadville Designs maintenance of way kit. And he's going to start that on September the 22nd. If you buy that kit between the 15th of August and the end of September, then Leadville is giving you a 10% discount off of the kit. But you have to mention new tracks when you order it in order to get the discount. You've all seen Martin before on the show doing scratch building projects and old kits and different things. He's really a talented modeler and really knows what he's doing. And Leadville Design is a company that I think is really a fine craftsman kind of modeling manufacturer. So I hope that you'll take a hard look at this and see if you're interested in doing it. Martin will be building it in O scale. Then Jim Murphy is going to build a LaBelle woodworking business car kit in HO scale starting October the 13th. This is the second LaBelle product that we've done on the build-alongs, and the first one for Jim Murphy. I know that this is going to be a great one. Plus, you have Jamie Bothwell around to give you some guidance on super detailing the underbody of the passenger cars. So between those two, you're really getting an awful lot of help building this car, and something that's a little different and unusual coming from LaBelle Woodworking. Next, we've got a modeling. Sorry, I skipped over something here. That's it. That's the only ones that I want to talk about tonight. The rest of them we have on our website, but those are the immediate ones that you really need to consider buying now. There's just a need to get that done as soon as you possibly can. The last one that I'd like to mention is an All Nation kit. All Nation's an old company. Gosh, I remember building their models when I was a kid. But they went out of business about 6, 7, 10 years ago, something like that. And they're recently brought back to life by a new owner who bought it from the family's trust that used to have it. They're going to start their build not until November the 6th. But the problem is this is a new company startup again, basically, because this is a company where all of the plans, all of the parts, all of the everything has been in storage for 6, 7, 8 years. And the new owner, John jwubbel, is having to basically start from scratch to bring the company back to life. So he's going to be doing a waffle side boxcar in O scale. David Schultz, who you've seen on the show and know how talented he is going to be building the car on the show during the build along. But John needs you to order the car as soon as you possibly can, because the kits he's producing are all done by him. He's not farming this out to other people. So that all of the cutting and everything that's being done for the kit, John is doing himself. So the sooner you can contact him and get your order in, the better it's going to be, and the surer you'll be that you'll be able to get his kit and be able to build along. The next My Build section, moderated by Jeremy White, is August the 21st. This is open to everybody. All you have to do to participate is send a photo or photos of your model that you've built with captions and your name to Jeremy White, and then you'll be on the show. As I said, this was always meant to be a participation show. All of you are modelers, or you wouldn't be here. All of you have built models, or you wouldn't be here. And we're just asking, share with us what you're building and what you have built, so that we can all learn and improve our modeling because of you. So I really hope that you'll participate in the My Build segments that we have. We have them once a month, and this one's going to be on August the 21st show. If you've got a modeling question, and we've gotten about 7, I think, so far, we've either been able to get a specific modeler from the show to contact you and answer your question individually, or in some cases, 2 cases, we've been able to have other modelers on the show actually put on clinics for that particular modeler and his question on the show. Nick Santos did one, and Clark Cooning is going to be doing one. So I hope that if you have questions, you'll share them with us, and we'll do everything we can to get them answered for you. As you know, each one of the shows, we have a quick tip. Well, tonight we have a guest that's going to do it, and that's John Franforther. You remember John, he was our webmaster until he decided he had to catch up on some other work and had to leave for a while, but he's back this evening with a quick tip. John, welcome.
Thank you, Jim. Well, I was out in the shop working the other day and looking at Paul's model, which I started to build, of the engine house. And I was trying to come up with a little bit better way of cutting out some of the paper models. So I started looking at these Donix tools since I have a CNC machine. And what you do is you put this up into the chuck on the CNC machine, and it's called a drag knife. So whichever way the CNC motor moves, it cuts the paper that way. Well, I looked at that long and hard, and for $250, I think I could come up with something a little better. So I was sitting there drawing circles on some paper, and I thought, you know, these are pretty cheap. You can get these probably for $1 or something like that at the craft stores or the office supply stores. So I'm thinking, you know, why not try to use this other than drawing circles? So what I did is I have an X-Acto knife sitting around. So I took the pencil out, slid the X-Acto knife in there, and I had to peen the rivet over a little bit because the legs moved a little too freely. So I got it so that it's nice and tight. Put a brand new blade in the X-Acto knife, and I turned it so the blade was in the correct direction for cutting. And I cut out a circle. So yeah, you can sit there and do it with scissors, but if you want to be a little more precise, you can, you know, I've tried it on paper. I've tried it on real thin plastic, some thin cardboard, and it seems to work out pretty good. Now, yeah, it's going to leave a little dimple in the middle where the pointed end stuck in, but you know, with a little bit of practice, you can get some pretty good circles out of it. I was using that for designing some stuff on my layout. I needed something to put in there so I knew exactly what sizes I need to make on my 3D printer, and it seems to work out pretty nice. So I've got that stuck in my toolbox for things just like this. I mean, great, you can only use it for circles, but it's another tool you can add to your toolbox. And that's my tip for tonight.
Fantastic. You've solved a problem that I've been dealing with. I really do appreciate this. I would never have thought about doing that. And that's what these are all about. That's why we're doing these. That's a great one. Thank you so very much for helping.
You're welcome.
Well, now I'd like to turn to our special segment for this evening, and that's Martin Brechbiel. And Martin, welcome back.
Okay, all right. Unmuted. Let's share the screen. And there we go. So another this old kit. We'll start at the beginning, because that's usually a good place to start when you're building a kit. At least I found it to be true. And we're going to start with this old box from Stewart Lundahl from 455 North Carpenter Avenue in North Hollywood. They produced at least 2 kits that I'm aware of. There's the Pennsylvania Railroad Dairy Reefer, and then there's just a plain boxcar. And these are turn of the century, the prior century, not this century, cars. And they actually, if you build them up carefully, they can come out very nice looking cars. It's a very tired looking box, but I think it was all there, and that's one of the reasons I kept it. So you get nice diagrams, nice exploded diagrams. I mean, we're talking 1950s here, so this is a pretty good quality instructions and information. I mean, you have all the parts. You can see where everything's supposed to go, how it's supposed to go there. And these drawings are not too far off from scale. It's actually a pretty good sized piece of printed instruction. And you can see here are the 2 ends. Both ends actually have brake gear on it, brake rigging. So we're back in time in the 1880s, 1890s. Basic K-brake underneath of this, truss rods, but it shows you where everything goes, pretty close to where it goes. And on this alone, you should be doing okay. So you can look at the date here. This is J.J. Munson, 4448. So this predates me by a decade, almost. And so this is a pretty, we've got what, a 70-year-old kit here. Here's one of the things that's really nice about this kit. We've got step-by-step detailed instructions, how to do it from beginning to end, all the way through. So there's actually, there's a Union Line boxcar, a PRR boxcar, and a Pennsylvania company, I can't even read that, reefer. Even gives painting instructions. So there's all the details on how to put this together, even what size drills to use. One would see that this is pretty straightforward. Just follow the instructions, which is pretty much what I did for once. Kind of a rarity all by itself right there. So what's in the box? Okay, well, I got a roof that's sort of boxcar roof shape, 2 end blocks, a milled floor, couple of envelopes, paper envelopes, not glassine envelopes, got paper envelopes this time, all kinds of goodies. These are the end scribe siding pieces. You can't see the scribing in it because it's pretty light. It's actually embossed. It's not actually scribed or milled. Pair of ladders that need a little bit of cleanup work. And some other bits and bobs of wood parts that all get used. And a bunch of about 30 thousandths wire. Here's the nice thing about this car. It comes painted on the sides. And it's actually pretty nice looking. This is about as attractive as it gets for 1885 or 1890. It's a nice bright car. You get two, both sides are painted. I'm only going to show you the one. You can cut it out. If you want the door to open and close, you can actually cut this open. I'm not going to bother doing this because this is about 3/16 inch plywood. It's making that cut and getting it clean and tidying it up. I'm just going to decide not to bother fighting with it. You also note that this door opens to the left. Back in time, doors once upon a time actually opened to the left, not always to the right, like most boxcars of modern day. This is the roof. I forgot what he calls this, comprestic. It's actually embossed wood. It's got 2 scribe marks in it. This actually, you fold this actually over. Let's go back a page. You actually fold it over the profile of the roof and glue it in place. But it's actually wood. It's not cardstock like that other kit I built from the caboose kit. So put it together. Well, standard construction. You build a box, 1 floor, 1 roof, end and an end. Some carpenter's glue, a little bit of some rubber bands. Let it set up. You're good to go. Keep rolling right along. There's filler blocks for your couplers, a support for the K-brake, 2 rather large pieces of wood for the queen posts, all glued together with some carpenter's glue. You're good to go. Okay, what's in the one envelope? I was dying to find out where the parts are. Comes with trucks and it comes with couplers and coupler boxes. I'm not going to use those because I'd rather just throw KDs on it and not be bothered with mismatching all my couplers. Some standards I have to keep to. It's like keep the same couplers, keep basically the same trucks if I can. Within my era, I'm not going to be using the screws. I have no idea what the springs go for, except probably in the couplers in some capacity. Some of these screws actually hold the car bolsters on. And there's a piece of chain underneath here, which we'll get back to later. Okay, so truss rods, following the instructions. So in that, underneath all that stuff, were these turnbuckles. These are actually half a turnbuckle or 3/4 of a turnbuckle. And so you have to kind of slide them over the brass wire from the side, drop some glue on it, and pray it stays. This is 30 thousandths brass wire. Actually, it's about 35 thousandths. It goes through these queen posts. So you have to shape it, put the queen posts in place, drill holes, stick them in with some glue, then shape your truss rod. Got some holes drilled over here to receive it. Shape it through, slide it through here, drop it in here, drop a glue, get it aligned, straightened out, align with the one on this end, put in your turnbuckle, keep going. Make sure probably that the open face of the turnbuckle, at least on 2 from each side, is facing inwards. Here are the car bolsters. 4 of those small screws actually hold these on. I don't bother with the screws. A little bit of goo, a little bit of CA. I can't get these back off with a pair of pliers unless I really try hard. That's good enough. I'm not going to put that much tension on my layout or pulling cars around that are going to pull the bolsters off the car bottom. So we got all those in, got the K-brake in place. Fold the roof and glue it down. Actually, I had weights on this along both sides, holding it down in place. You have to get it perfectly centered, left to right, front to back, whichever that is for you, because you need that overhang on the sides, particularly for those thick pre-painted sides, and on the ends because you're going to put on the scribed ends. Comes out fairly well. It's not too hard to do to get it centered. If you're in doubt, you flip it over and mark it with a pencil and get close. Don't worry about it. So there's what I was saying. So we glue on the ends. Here's that. There you go. They extend outward. So the sides actually drop in between these two gaps. You have the end beams on, and all that's glued in place. I got 4 of these little things. And I was like, okay, these are the end bolts. And they take a pretty good size hole. I've forgotten what size. I just drill those with a hand drill, a small battery powered hand drill. Not worry about it too much. The drawing shows you exactly where they go though. So you can measure it right off that scale drawing I showed you, mark it, and hand drill it without any problem. They drop right in place. Same story with the ladders. You spend a good bit of time with a file with these ladders. They're cast in Zamek, so they're fairly hard, but they're also brittle. So you really don't want to put a lot of pressure on them, but you want to spend time with a file, get them all cleaned out, all the flash, and then you have to mark and drill holes and drop them in. Try to get it right the first time, get it close at least, and a little bit of glue, a little CA, they're in. This, of course, is where I made my first mistake on this. I probably should have painted the ends before I put the ladder on, and I probably should have painted the ladder too. So, pre-painting things when you can, it's probably a good idea. I was moving kind of fast on this one. Oh gosh, another envelope full of goodies. The reefer hatches. I can't get over how incredibly bright and shiny these things are. When they came out of the bag, they looked like they had been cast yesterday. They are incredibly sharp, bright castings. Very little flash on them. Touch with a file here and there. All the rest of the goodies. You have to sort out the goodies. There's all kinds of things in here. Door runners, top and bottom for 2 doors. These are the corner braces. You got to fold those 90 degrees in the middle. Stirrup steps, brake platform, and these things are grab irons. I have no idea. So they're actually scored. You can see the score mark right there and there. You just snap them apart, and that's 4 grab irons that you snap apart and glue on. Actually, you're not supposed to glue them in place. You're supposed to nail them in place. That's what all these nails are for. I'm actually going to go back and use the nails because I don't trust gluing it in place, but also because if I don't nail it in place or put nut bolt washer castings in those holes, I'm going to have a bunch of holes. And it just looks silly without filling the holes with something. So you put brake details at each end, and the instructions actually show you which end versus the direction of the K-brake, which end is which. There's the brake wheel came with. It talks about this relief valve. It doesn't supply any of the parts, so you have to just fabricate that from some brass wire and some brass tubing. A little bit of solder and you're done. Drill the hole, bend it, put it in place. A little bit of glue holds it there. I added a ratchet and pawl casting because they're so visible. You got to have them on that era car. I really didn't like the brake wheel that it supplied for this, and it had no housing. Basically, to mount it from the instructions, you took one of those grab irons, cut it in half, gave it about 2 half twists and a turn, jammed it into the back here through a hole you drilled, and then with another one of the nails, hung their brake wheel into the grab iron hole. That really sounds terrible. So I had this brake wheel and housing, and I thought that'll be good. That'll look just as good, if not better. I tried to use the chain it came with. It literally fell apart in my hand. 70-year-old brass chain just does not seem to hold up very well. It's not unlike ourselves. Things wear out. Started on the roof walk supports. It doesn't give you roof walk supports. It tells you just glue this directly to the roof. And I thought, that just doesn't seem like a good thing. And I like having roof walk support. So I made these out of 3x4 stock and just run them through your Northwest Shoreline chopper. 2 or 3, whichever you have. And it does give you the roof walk boards, so those get glued in place. So they're glued in place, or at least those 2 are glued. This one was just resting here. These are the fascia boards. So they've got to be painted before you put them on. And I think this is about where I'm going to stop because I've got a lot of painting to do. I got to paint the ends, paint parts, paint the roof, paint the underbody, and glue the sides on, and then put the rest of the parts on. So that's where I'm stopping. So next week, there's where we'll be. And any questions, now's the time to scream them out at me. Gosh, no screaming.
I've got one for you, Martin.
Yeah.
This looks like a pretty sophisticated kit for the early 1950s.
That's 48.
How would you rate this as far as the kits back in that time?
Oh, this is a top of the line kit for 48. There were some very good kits back then too. I mean, the low-bow kits were in existence in the late 40s too. Scalecraft had kits. There were a lot of good old scale kits that built up properly and nicely, stand up very, very well today. What's really nice about this kit, I'm really impressed with the instructions.
I was going to mention that. It seems like the kids today are getting away from that. Why is that?
I think people are lazy about writing instructions. It's hard to do. They don't want to be bothered. You know, I've produced 7 or 8 kits myself, and they were derived out of clinics I gave. So I actually wrote a lot of stuff, and by giving the clinic, I got a lot of feedback on my instructions. And I think that's really an important criteria to embrace if you're producing kits, is to hand your kit out to 3 or 4 guys, ask them what they think.
Martin, it's called a beta test.
I know what it is. I wasn't going to use the frame,
But it's worth saying it. That's what you want to do. So
yeah.
here's an interesting question. What did a kit like this cost in 1950? I mean, it's a curious question about how much it cost, and when you compare that to income levels and moved it into today's dollars, it'd be curious to know what a kit like this would cost, so we'd understand kind of, you know, from the average working person, you know,
right,
what kind of investment it was to buy this as a kit.
Okay, well, probably somewhere between $5 and $10, I would think.
Back then.
Yeah.
Which
and
is probably $100 today, probably.
75 to 100.
75, yep.
But you okay, a couple of things nice, you know, you're still painting some parts and you still need trucks.
Yep.
And O-scale trucks can be painfully expensive if you wish them to be. And that's your
Another
choice.
observation on instructions is the fact that there are a number of us that are of certain age, and most all of us had a high school era drafting class. And I was remarking on that instruction sheet, and that was done with pen and ink on the original. And the man even added shading for the truss rods on his drawing. That was an extraordinary. That's when drafting was almost an art form. And by a lot of us now, us younger generation, did not have the opportunity to take drafting or graphic arts, they called it in later years. And that was a way of expressing how to assemble something just using graphics. It was great instructions written there, but without that third angle projection drawing to scale, there were a lot of rules about how those drawings were done. It would have been much less interesting to assemble that kit, but you had everything right there before you. And we all signed our drawings. I noticed the draftsman put his name and the date on it, because it was his work. And obviously the man made his living with a drafting pen.
You know, and I'll mention this too. back in that period of time, because I lived back in that time. I built kits back in the late 40s. I don't think the modelers were of our age today. I think basically we were younger. We didn't have mentoring.
Wait a second, Jim, it was the same modelers, is what you're saying. You were building
Well-
kids back then and now, so it's the same modelers.
Well,
Yeah, you were younger then.
yeah, and what I'm also trying to say is we didn't have anybody to teach us how to build. The instructions were critical for us. Our dad worked, mom was busy doing the house stuff and all that kind of thing. And we were on our own. If we wanted to be a model railroader, then we had to buy the best kits that we possibly could, take all the care in the world to put them together, where we might be able to throw that kit together today in a short period of time. Back then, it was a real chore. I mean, you read the instructions, you reread the instructions, you test fitted everything 3 or 4 times. It wasn't like what it is today. And that kind of a kit back then would have been worth its weight in gold. And that's the difference. That to me is that's the value of showing the old kits. But you also have to keep in mind the modelers that were buying those kits back then. It wasn't your dad necessarily having a model railroad. If your dad was involved in model railroading, chances are at that point, it was because you, the son, wanted a model railroad. Martin, thanks so very much.
We'll be
Really
back.
Hey, quick question.
Yeah,
Is there a possibility to like scan the instructions and put them on the New Tracks layout or New Tracks modeling website so we can, see them, or is there copyright issues on that?
48. It's probably still covered. By
Be my guest, yeah. I mean, it would be a great idea, Ed. I just don't know the legal ramifications, and therefore I'm scared to try it. But I'm telling you, just looking at them and hear Martin talk about them, these things, I'm telling you, it used to be that you could build a model by reading the instructions, and you read them and reread them, and it was just different.
Yeah, as far as displaying it, any entity that has a claim on the copyright, which I'm sure is expired, all the copyrights on that have expired and not been repaid. And so any claim is no doubt expired. Plus, worst case scenario, they send you something that says you have to take it down, and you take it down. There's no economic harm generated because they're not generating any economic value from it. They can't argue you're harming their economic value.
Yeah. But anyway, Martin, thanks so much for doing this. This is exactly what I hope that would come out of these segments, because showing what people were building back in that period of time versus what we have to work with today, I think is really valuable information. So thanks so much for doing this.
Okay, well, we'll be back next week. Hopefully I'll have it done.
I'll be interested to see how you match that paint.
I don't really want to go there.
All right, so moving right along, we've got our featured modeler tonight, Jamie Bothwell. Now, we had Earl Hackett come on and show us how to do 3D printing, which a lot of people, I think, found very interesting. And now tonight, we've got Jamie going to come on and show us laser cutting. To build your own structure or your own passenger car or freight car, I assume, in any scale, Jamie's the man to show us how to do it. Jamie, most welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me. Okay, so let me just share my screen here. Do this. Let's see if I share my desktop. That's what I'm supposed to do, right? There's my desktop. Okay. Let's see. Slideshow, start show. Wait, nope, didn't click. Nope. Come on, you play from start. There we go. Okay, so hopefully you're all seeing the show there. You too can laser cut What do you want to make? Whoops, wrong button. Why are we not? Oh, it's not going forward. Oh, I got to click this. Okay, try that one. Nope. Okay, one of these days. There we go. Okay, so first of all, what are we going to cover in this presentation? All right. What is this presentation going to be? It's going to be a brief look at what you can do with a laser. Suggestions on how you can access a laser, and some encouragement to try this for yourself. What this won't show you is a step-by-step tutorial. I'm not going to try to do a step-by-step tutorial because you may be using a different drawing program than I do, and you may be using a different laser than I use. So it's not going to do me a whole lot of good to say, you know, grab this box over here and drag this over there and make this and put this in like that, because maybe your program does it differently. A little more than a year ago, when we were home from the pandemic, I said to my wife, I'm getting itchy not being able to draw things. Maybe I'm going to buy myself a program, and I'm a Mac guy. So I went online and looked. I tried a free trial for one, and I was like, there is no way I'm going to use this, because it was horrible. I really did not like it at all. And maybe that's what you're going to use and you're going to get used to, but I sure didn't like it. So anyway, so that's why I'm not going to bother with a step-by-step thing. Now I would imagine the laser, no matter what laser you use, it's all a matter of sort of settings and whatever. And if you had some questions about that, I would be certainly happy to discuss that with you. But I don't think that that's necessary for this particular show, because you got to get out there and futz with it yourself a little bit and try to see what it is that you, how to set up your laser. And obviously, lasers come in different powers, and the one I happen to use currently is about a 30 watt, which is fairly lightweight. So, maybe my settings are a little higher than you would need if you were running into something with a 40 watt or a 50 watt, or a 70 watt. Okay, so why would I want to do that? Well, traditionally we build kits or we scratch build, right? So, scratch building, you go out and you say, all right, I have to get all this stuff together. I have to collect all this material. I have to cut the windows and the doors if it's a building, or I have to measure the wood and cut the wood for whatever, side of the train car or whatever. So, that's one way to do it. Okay. The other way to do it is, of course, you can build a kit. Now, in building a kit, especially a laser cut kit, I had a friend who used to build, he used to market a line of S-scale buildings. And for a while, he was kind of the only game in town with S-scale buildings. And his buildings were, somebody said one time that it was all the parts you needed to scratch build a building together in one spot. And, but you could change things. If you didn't want the door over there, you could move it over here. You don't want this window, you could leave it out. So because you were cutting all of those windows yourself, you could choose where to put them if you wanted to. Whereas if you're doing a kit, you're a little bit more limited. Now, obviously with a laser cut kit, you might even be more limited than you were. So the laser makes the kit easier to build, but it also gives you less options. So if you can do your own laser cutting, you can get around that. Of course, kit bashing is another thing. So that's what we're doing here. And we actually do a little bit of kit bashing. I use the laser to do a little bit of kit bashing, which I'll try to talk to you about in a little bit. Okay, so what can I cut? You can cut wood, styrene, laser board, acrylic, and paper. Okay. I've cut wood up to about, I think, 1/8 of an inch thick. They talk about cutting wood thicker than that in multiple passes. The problem with thick wood, of course, is it lights itself on fire, and that's not good. I always tell people when I'm running the laser, if I have to step out of the room for a minute and somebody else is in there, I'll say, if you see smoke coming from that, just lift the lid, because that shuts off the light and then there's no more laser. You can cut styrene. Again, depending on thickness. I've never cut any 005 styrene. I've done nice jobs with 010, 010, 020, 030, 05, up to 060, I think. 060, you probably want to use more than one pass. You want to run the laser over it a couple of times, cooler and faster, so that you don't get melty edges. You try to do it all at one time, you get melty edges. Acrylic, again, you can cut acrylic. I've cut acrylic up to 1/4 inch thick. Laser board, as the name implies, is a product that's designed to be cut on a laser. Laser board, I bought it in 3 thicknesses. I think it's 64th, 32nd, and then something that's thicker than 32nd that I don't really know. It's certainly not a 16th, but it's a little thicker than that. I forget, maybe it's 0.3. I don't know, that'd be about 30th. I don't know. I don't remember what it is. So it's they offered a thicker piece. Somebody I knew was interested in some diaphragms for or striker plates for diaphragms for O scale passenger cars. So he wanted the thickest stuff he could get. So I obtained some of that. And then of course, paper, you can always cut paper. Paper is great because it's cheaper than all those other products. And so I often cut my initial cuts in paper to see if things are going to fit. And that's a lot cheaper than cutting things in wood or styrene or acrylic, etc., because then you can sort of test the fit out and see how it works. Okay. Now, I always feel I should mention this. Never cut these things. You do not want to cut PVC. Chances are your laser will come with some kind of thing, or, you know, if you go somewhere to use a laser, they will tell you very clearly, do not cut any PVC. I don't know why you'd want to cut PVC for modeling, but just in case. PVC is about the worst thing you can cut. The C is chlorine, and when you cut it, the heat of the laser will release the chlorine. Chlorine will not only damage you, it will also damage your laser. So it's really, really bad. You do not ever want to cut PVC. Okay. Another thing you don't want to cut is ABS. All right. Now, ABS, a lot of models are built from ABS. A lot of railroad models are cast in ABS. So, you know, you think, oh, hey, I've got some projects where I'd like to cut out windows and change the window arrangement on a Pullman car, say. I think, oh, I'll just whip that in the laser and cut it out. No, you don't really want to do that. So the B, again, will release something that's not particularly good for you. I don't think it's as bad as chlorine because I don't think it'll damage the laser. So if you had a good ventilation system, maybe, but I would stay away from it, right? So those are 2 things not to cut. Now, again, if I look at, I found a list of stuff online somewhere about all this other stuff. You know, they'll say, you know, you don't want to cut styrofoam because it melts or whatever. But, you know, some of those other ones, you know, these are the 2 biggies. Don't cut this stuff. All right. Okay, so how do I do it? You think laser cutting might be really complex. You think, oh my gosh, I don't know how to draw with the computer. I don't know how to do it. It's really, on a basic level, it's really quite simple. You think in layers and you draw rectangles. That's it. So when you look at something, you say, okay, how many layers does that have? How would I build that up in layers? And then you start cutting those layers. And then most of those layers are made up of rectangles. So let me just show you. Here's a for instance. Some of you HO folk might recognize this as the Revell Bakery. Ancient kit's been around for forever. Well, somebody in S scale took one of these and cut it down, you know, cut 2 walls of it, basically took a kit and sort of made a flat out of it by stacking 2 on top of each other. And then they put it up on a higher foundation, so it would sort of be S scale size. And they wanted me to cut out all of these windows. They said, go through here and cut out all these windows and file them out. And I don't remember how many windows there are, 19 or 20 of the whole thing. And then each one has 6 windows. Okay. And I thought, that is way more work than I want to do. And I thought, you know, I could laser cut that. Now, the reason I left this window in is it had this little fan in it. And I thought, well, okay, maybe I can do these and leave the fan. I have since decided I don't care. I'm cutting the fan out. So all you got to do, get out your drawing program and make yourself some new windows. That's 10 rectangles, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then the whole thing is a rectangle. So 9 and 10. 10 rectangles, simple as you can be. Play with it in size a little bit and away you go, right? Again, think of it in layers. If I go back and look, this window, the buttons in this window look like they're 2 layers. There's sort of a thin outer edge and then there's a thicker inner edge. And so that's what I've got going here. So you put those on there and then the cross ones didn't have any, they were just a single layer and there you go. Okay. So fairly simple project. I had an HO friend who was interested in Mifflin Tower. So look at Mifflin Tower. What do you see in layers? Okay. Well, let's start with the layer that makes up the wall. Okay. So that's like a scribe siding. Okay. Step one. Then you'll notice that there's kind of like this little box around these openings. I was trying to decide if that was done with paint or that was done with, a different layer of wood. But I decided to use it as a different layer. Those are actually done in paper. I actually did the outline of these in paper. So again, there's paper that not only am I testing things, I'm actually using it in the model. So what I said was, okay, let's call this siding layer a layer. Let's call this outer trim layer, the brown layer, a layer. And then let's call these four rectangles here, and however many there are on the front, 6 or 8 of them on the front, let's call those a layer. In addition, the windows, the actual window inside there, like the, I don't know what you call it. Like, if you buy an Anderson window, you get the window, like not the hole in the building, but the actual window itself. That's also 2 layers. So what I did, again, to make those, what do they call it? A double pane. I put in, I cut an outer layer and then I glued it, or an inner layer, and I glued an outer layer on top of it. Okay. Now these guys are obviously out taking some measurements of the tower so they can make better models. But I wish I could have asked them questions about what they found out about those things and some of the windows. But anyway, so that's this little humor there. Okay, so count the layers. Again, you can sort of see each window is 2 layers. Here's my paper layer. That's the trim. Here's another paper layer under that. That's the second layer of trim. And then there's the scribe siding. So again, there's sort of 3 layers in there. Forgive me for the paint. I got to go back and sort of redo that a little bit. There were places that was a little lumpy. It's painted with craft paint and a little lumpy. So I was sanding it and I just haven't gone back to fix it up yet. So these are some Canadian National passenger cars. There's a whole series of them. I think there's 6 altogether. A friend of mine in Ontario was very hyped up to get a set of these. And of course, in S-scale, another reason, why do this? Why should I go to the trouble of laser cutting these? Why don't I just go buy a kit? Well, in S-scale, not everything is available. We're a little bit starved for stuff. So sometimes things that are available in other scales aren't available in S, and we either have to cajole someone else into making them or make them ourselves. So again, if you look at this one, this car, now there was an article, oh gosh, ancient model railroader, almost as old as Martin's car. I want to say 1952 issue of model railroader. This guy built this 5-car set. In addition, there's drawings for a combine, so that makes the 6th car. So he went out and bought siding and whatever and cut all these bits himself. So good for him. He made it. And for the age of those kits, he did an amazingly good job. All right. But what I did was I ran, this is actually laser board. I ran those through I actually scribed my own laser board. Again, they're just straight lines, and what you do with the laser is, again, for my program, once I draw one of them and get it in the right spot, I put another one in the right spot, I just say duplicate, 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 and it just will make lines all the way across. Okay. So there's an outer layer that's scribed. There's an inner layer that just has windows, and that's what has these inner window frames. And then there's an outer layer a final outer layer, I guess maybe the scribes again, you call the middle layer, the scribing that has the letter board and this trim around the windows. Okay, so these 2 layers are 32nd laser board, and then this outer trim on the window is 64th laser board. As an S-scaler, laser board's great because 32nd is 2 inches and 64th is 1 inch, so that's wonderful for me. Now there's 3 things going on here. It looks a little lumpy, some of the paint. So again, if you're looking at my modeling, all right, so there's 3 things going on here. Number 1, I wanted to see how well this scribe, this laser cut siding would show up as far as, like they really looked light when I did it. And I thought, I wonder if the paint's just going to fill it in. It's going to look flat. So it showed up fairly well. I'm pretty pleased with that. Second of all, I painted it with a spray bomb. Like Rust-Oleum or something. So I was checking, number 1, how good is the Rust-Oleum paint as it comes out of the can? And I would tell you it's pretty good. It's got, I don't know if those nicks are from the laser board or if they're from the those little lumps are from the laser board or from the paint. And then third of all, I was checking to see if the color would be okay for CP rail, and I decided that it was pretty decent. So anyway, I was having some issues with the top up here, so I had to recut that. And so I recently did that. And so that's why it doesn't match anything. I believe eventually it just gets painted black to match the roof. Here's another one. This one, a little more lumpy, you can see. But again, you can see what I did here is, okay, so we've got the inner layer of the wall, which you really can't see at all in this picture. We've got the middle layer of the wall, which has the scribe siding. We have the third layer, outer layer of the wall that's got the letterboard and this door trim. And then the door, so now this piece right here is part of the outside. Then the door on the inside is two pieces of laser board, the 64th on the outside and a 32nd on the inside. And the 32nd one just has a big hole in it. And then it has these lines scribed in it. And then the 64th piece on the outside has the windows, and the individual windows. And then it has these little boxes cut out or little squares cut out of it here, so you can see the scribing on the doors. And those, it's always kind of a rush to me when these things fit. When I put those two doors together, the two pieces of the door together, they fit up absolutely perfectly, and it was just so cool. So still got to go back and finish this up. Got to put some handrails on the doors and whatnot. So okay, so here is something. Now I cut for a friend of mine, I cut FW Tower. And again, I just cut the walls. If you go onto the S-Scale website, the National Association of S-Scalers, if you look at the old convention, this model won the best of show at our last convention back in 2019 in Cincinnati. And, I say, I gave him the football at the 10-yard line. He ran 90 yards for the touchdown. So, I handed him walls that had laser cutting in them, and he, I windows, but he went through and put all the details on and, made it a really fabulous model. So, he did a great job. But I just kind of, he could have done what I did. It just would have taken a long time to do it. He would have had to cut it out, and he would have had to scribe all the lines. And I just turned on the laser and all the way it went. So anyway, I thought for fun, I would try to make an N scale one. And I haven't really gotten a lot farther with it. It's one of those 15 projects on the workbench, 15, probably more. But anyway, this is the inner, there's an outer 32nd laser board and an inner 64th laser board. And again, it's kind of cool because you can do the coloring beforehand. And again, this is just one wall. But I got this out because I wanted to show you just how small you can cut 64th, well, any laser board really. Okay, so those little window buttons right there, they're just give you a size. There's a penny, how big that is. And those little window buttons are 8/1000ths of an inch. So you can cut down to 8/1000ths of an inch. And the laser board is fine with that. Now you can't do that in plastic. What happens is it'll melt, right? So you try to cut plastic that small and it just melts. So that's why I had to do some other cuttings, for the laser board. So anyway, so again, nothing here but rectangles. We haven't shown you a single cut that hasn't been a rectangle. And now this is a drawing from the series of article, or the article I told you where the guy built the series of cars. He built the 5 Canadian Pacific passenger cars. Did a fabulous job. You can see all the layers he put together. And again, I just made it a lot simpler with the laser. So here's my laser. Now again, in terms of layers, this is the backing 1/32nd laser board, and you see the windows. Now these small transom windows are actually a separate overlay. So they were cut separately and then glued on inside the window. That's what it looked like to me. I actually stood in front of one of these cars in Montreal, and I really should have taken a better look at it, but it's a long story, so I didn't do it. So anyway, but now you'll notice, again, all of a sudden you say, hey, wait a minute, that's not a rectangle. Nope, it's got a rounded corner. It's really not that bad. So there's on my drawing program, there's a little command. You just click an arrow and you can start rounding the corners of the rectangles, and you can make things that are round. So anyway, that's that one was cut. That I think yesterday I cut the inner for that, and I was pretty happy when it fit. So that's actually almost a car now. It's the sides and the sides are on the floor. So I still have to work on the ends. Jim said he thought you could cut freight cars with it, and yes, you can. So I have made a couple of Pennsylvania Railroad GD gondola cars. I cut these last year, right before we got shipped out of school for COVID. So I spent some time at home building them, and it was a nice project. Now, I had a little problem with these. I was hoping you can kind of see the laser. This was the first thing I tried to cut on the inside and the outside. So again, we're getting a little fancy here. So I tried to cut them on the inside and the outside, and they didn't really line up. And I thought, well, okay, I can get away with it. But the problem is that the sides didn't really, they wanted a warp. Okay, so I really couldn't put the sides there. This is a rare model because the sides are actually thinner than the actual car. These are 1/32 basswood, and the sides on this car were really more like 3 inches, and 1/32 in an S scale would be 2 inches. So they're really a little bit thinner than they should be. But they didn't want to stay straight enough. I couldn't glue them onto the base, the bottom of the car here, and get them to stay straight. So I ended up building the car around a block. So there's a block of wood in there. So, when I load it with coal, you won't know the difference, but I was hoping to have it be, like a removable coal load, not going to work. Okay. So anyway, but there are no nut bolt washers on those, but you can see it looks like a little bit, like a bigger dot there. I did actually mark the grab irons with the laser. I put a little dot in there and had the laser sort of cut a pilot hole, if you will, for the grab irons. The side stakes are not rectangles. They are trapezoidal. But again, once you figure out rectangles, it's not too big of a stretch to start adding curves or, making triangular shapes rather than just square. So, rectangles will get you a long way down the road, but, pretty soon you start saying, hey, I can do this or I can do that. So yes, you can do freight cars with them. There's a Pennsylvania Railroad GD gondola. Okay, here's a Pine Series sleeper that I did. This one is cut in 010 styrene. It's an 010 styrene overlay on an American Models core body. So we have in S scale, we have a passenger car. We have several passenger cars, but one of these are a long time. This is a kit back from I don't know. I want to say the 80s probably. And they had a series. He came out with a series of passenger cars, and for me, I don't care what kind I get because I'm going to put new sides on it anyway. So I just cut away whatever I don't want. So I put the windows on and just cut away whatever, or if there's not a hole in there already, I just cut it away a little bigger. So that's what I got. So, all right. So then anyway, this was a car. This is the L&N, the Louisville, St. Louis, Chattanooga, and Nashville, Chattanooga, and St. Louis, and the C&EI all had these cars. So anyway, it was a Pine series. And of course, if you did your homework, you'll note that it has the right trucks on there. It has an outside swing hanger truck back from my earlier presentation. So there you go. But this one was glued on, I just glued it on with, I guess I used ACC. I just ACC'd it on there. I tried using some kind of styrene cement, and it just wasn't melting the styrene on the either the car is probably ABS, so maybe it wasn't melting the ABS. So I just tried ACC, and it worked great. So that's what I got. Let's see. All right. So there's that one. Of course, now I got to go through and put in all the underbody detail on that car because, of course, it's looking rather barren. So, all right. So here I'm just showing off. All right. So a couple other things I've done. This is a Lehigh Valley whistle post. So again, maybe you HO guys have these things available to you, but we in S scale have to make our own. I had a friend who was very interested in Lehigh Valley whistle posts. And so I made them 2 styles. One's just got the whole W cut out, but the ones I like better have these little bars still in. And they just made these out of, I forget what he told me they made them out of, but they just cut them with a welding torch, and just cut them out. But some of them, they cut the whole W, and some of them, they put the little tabs in. And I like the one with the tabs because it's a little bit cooler. And then this is a Pennsylvania Rail whistle post. Again, I didn't have my settings up high enough. You can barely make out the W in there, but it is raised. what I did was I cut out around there, and then inside of that I burned in a little bit. So you can engrave, because I said I engraved the siding on some of those passenger cars. You can engrave as well as cut. So that's something you can do. And I've got a bunch of other stuff that I've done like that. I've even turned out a few pint glasses because we have a rotary cutter and I can make round things. So that's kind of fun. I've made some railroad themed pint glasses, which is kind of entertaining. But again, as I was saying, my goal is to tell you that you can do this. And so, once you get fancy with it, then you can do all kinds of crazy stuff. But again, this is something everyone can do, really. But you say, wait a minute, I don't have a laser. What am I going to do? I don't have $2,000. I don't have thousands of dollars to go buy a laser. What am I going to do? Or am I going to get a laser? Well, go to the Fab Lab. Now, I don't know what your Fab Lab's called. Ours is called the Fab Lab. This is run by our local community college. They have open hours, as you can see, from 9 till 4. And again, check your local community college, check your local trade school, whatever. Maybe they've got something going on there that you can use. And then you can go in there and borrow their laser. Right now, unfortunately, it costs money. So, whatever your place has to be. At mine, it's $100 a month for mine. So, again, you would have to decide if that was worth it to you. Now, the other thing is that, and I haven't really looked into this because I'll let you know a little secret. I mean, I'm a teacher. Our school has a laser. I'm the guy who runs the laser. So, if you want something laser cut at school, you come to me. And so I do most of my laser cutting. I do all of my laser cutting at school, but I am looking to retire someday. And then I'll think, well, maybe I'll go to the Fab Lab. But in addition to just laser cutters, the Fab Lab also has all kinds of other interesting things. They have a complete metal shop. We are very close to Martin Guitar. If you have ever heard of Martin Guitars, the Martin Guitar factory is about 10 miles up the road for me. And so we have a full-on, the Fab Lab has a full-on guitar making thing. You can take a class in making a guitar. So you can go there and learn to make guitars. So it's, again, maybe you don't want to do something just model railroady, you can do all kinds of other stuff. I'm kind of itching to borrow their, to get in there and use their machine tools because they've got some pretty serious machine tools. So that's, so it's not just that. It's not just laser cutting. Now let's see what I want to do. Okay, so here's a couple of their lasers. This one, I was watching a woman work on this one the one day I was in there, and I forget what it is, but this one's probably the closest thing to the one I use. Back here is Big Bob, which is a beast of a laser, you can see. Big Bob I'm kind of interested in trying out because Big Bob will cut metal. That is a laser that will cut through metal, and I have some projects I would like to cut through metal. So that would be that. And then they have an epilogue over here. Now this is actually, the laser I use at school is actually an epilogue laser. So this one is probably pretty close to what I'm used to. I don't know about size and watts and whatever. I didn't really ask them. But again, they've got 3 laser cutters at the Fab Lab, so you could have access. Additionally, since I have access to these or the one at school, I've never pursued this, but I believe there are people who, just like say Shapeways will do 3D printing for you. I think there are people who would do laser cutting for you if you did your own drawing. So you would ship them off a drawing and say, hey, can you cut this for me? And they would do it for a small fee. Now, the problem with that, of course, is that if it doesn't fit, then you got to pay the fee again after you make the correction. So, but again, it's just trying to show you that this is something that you could have access to, you could do, right? So that is about all I've got. So I don't know, I got to check and see how long I talked for. Let's see, stop the share. A little short, so hopefully people have some questions. Let me see what's going on. Let me read the chat here if there's anything. Let's see. Okay, so what actually is laser board? I'm sorry, I forgot to say that. I meant to say laser board is what I've heard it termed as is a paper, a resin impregnated paper product. Okay, so it's a paper product, but it's injected with resin, so it's a little sturdier than just paper. It is not completely water resistant. We found that out when we had something of a water main break last summer, I think, and the place flooded out and some of my laser board got ruined. So it is not entirely waterproof, but it's, if you got a little water on it, it wouldn't hurt it.
As a note,
So-
laser board is made similar to the medium density fiber that's used in really cheap furniture and countertops. It's basically paper fiber that's squeezed under high pressure with a resin binder. So think of cheap particle board, only as thin as cardboard.
Yeah, depending on the cardboard, actually it's thinner than cardboard, but yeah, that's basically about what you got going. So it's a resin impregnated paper product. So, all right, so let's see, it's like mat board, but not, yep, okay, so a paper product, yes, it's a paper product. It's a glue is a burn, okay, right. So what issue of MR was the passenger car article? Jim, I'm gonna run and find that for you when I'm done. Okay, so I don't I want to say it was January 52, but I don't remember exactly. So I don't somebody sent me copies of the article. The guy who wants the passenger car sent me copies of the article. Okay, let's see. When COVID ends, try makerspace. Yeah, makerspaces are basically that's essentially, like I said, that's what the Fab Lab is. It's a makerspace. So yes, there's one in Troy, New York. How about that? Okay, so. All right, nicely done. Thank you. Well, thank you, Bob. That passenger car looks like a LaBelle kit. Yeah, see, but here's what happens is that in S scale, we can't just go out and buy a LaBelle kit. We have to go and make our own LaBelle kits. So yeah, I was looking at the LaBelle website and I was vastly tempted to buy some of those. And I'm like, I just don't need an O scale passenger car or even an HO passenger car, but I would build an O scale one. But yeah, an S scale, then it's fun, and I'm all for it. So yeah, if LaBelle made S scale passenger cars, I'd be in for a few. So, but yes, very much like making your own LaBelle kit. So in a way, it's a little bit like this is like taking Martin's presentation and making it new school, right? So I mean, we're building an old kit that then you can build. So, any other questions?
Jamie, if I wanted to build a freight car, what material should I use?
Well, it depends on what kind of freight car you want to build. So like if you want to build, I am currently building, much like Martin, I'm building an old S scale kit of the Southern Big John Hopper. And it was built from the real car was steel and my model is wood. So I've got the sanding sealer out and I'm slapping it on, right? So if I wanted to build that car, I would probably go with styrene because styrene does a pretty good job of looking like metal. If I wanted to build a wood box car like Martin's car, I would build it out of wood or possibly the laser board, right? So that's what I would choose. So I would try to choose the material that's most closely like the material that the car itself was made out of. That would be my recommendation.
Jamie, what month did you say that magazine was?
I want to say it's January 52, but if you give me a minute, I'll run and get the.
I've got them all called up on my screen. I'm just trying to.
To clarify, there was an article in the May 1952, which I pulled up
Okay,
to get some more research. But I understand that picture we saw, I think, was from 1967 article. And I don't have the 1967 MR listing in front of me. So
the picture that showed like the exploded view.
yes,
No, it's not. That's from the other article.
that's in the 52.
What?
If it's from the Kootenai Bay article, I believe that was in 1958.
The article that I'm got, the guy's name is he's a Canadian fellow from out west. Oh gosh.
Walk?
No, it's Gib Kennedy.
Gib Kennedy, really?
Gib
It's-
Kennedy, yeah.
It's the Kettle Valley CPR Kettle Valley train he
Yep.
built.
Yep, that's
He built
exactly
it for the
what is.
museum train and went across Canada, and I saw them. And then the article was then done for the magazine. And there's been 2 brass series of those cars made in HO,
Right, but not an S.
not an S or not an O.
So I've got the S scale ones. So plus Plus, there was an article, this is one of those things. Back in the day, I was going through my old, I said, I got these 2 giant boxes of old Railroad Craftsman model railroads. I got to get rid of these. So, but some of these articles I want, so what did I want? So I basically went through and pulled out everything that had drawings of anything that was in S scale. If they had a drawing of a car in S scale, I pulled it out. And so one of them was, I'll be darned, a CPR combine. And I thought, when am I ever going to build a CPR combine? I don't know, whatever. It's an S scale. I'm going to keep it. Well, guess what? I'm building a CPR combine. So you never know.
Yeah, I'll tell you what is worth it is I bought the CD of all the back issues, and boy, a CD, and I just put it on my machine, and I don't have to have the magazines anymore.
Yeah. Well, that's hats off to Gib Kennedy, because that guy built beautiful models. And like I said, it's like back in, what was it? I don't know, was it 1952? Did I get that number then?
I'm just looking at the one article now, May 52. I don't.
Yeah, May of
May
52.
1952 was by Mel Thornbar.
Oh, Mel Thornburg. Okay.
Yeah, if I could, I don't know if I can.
Is that passenger
Here's-
cars of the 1990 or 1900s? Is that what it is?
Don't know if you can see my screen. I've got the article up. Never mind.
Jamie, you're muted, by the way.
All right. Okay.
What page is it, Jim?
It's on the article, excuse me, I'm flipping through here. The article starts on page 10.
Okay, because I can show it to everybody. 10.
It's really cool. It's by Mel Thornburg.
Passenger cars of 1900, is that it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And on page 12, it shows the most beautiful lamination, which was, of course, done by hand rather than by laser, but it's the same principle that Jamie has been discussing. It's wonderful. Can you pop up page 12? Look at that. That was exactly 70 years ago, so get it in context.
Yeah, I'll go to this is the page 10 you were talking about.
That's where it starts, and on page 12, it shows that wonderful way of laminating different layers of laser cut materials. Oh, wait a minute. He didn't have a laser cutter.
That's what made it so long to build kits back then.
Okay, so I lied. It was June of 59.
Okay, I'll find that one.
Kettle Valley, build a complete Kettle Valley passenger car.
Okay, June of 59.
Yeah, and actually, one of the things that got me into S scale back in my wayward days, I started out in HO, and I found an article in this guy, and that's what he did. He built passenger cars out of cardstock, and he would do like 3 layers of cardstock, and he would cut all the windows by hand. He said he'd sit in front of the television and just use a chisel blade X-Acto and just cut each corner, and go around, and he would just make cars, and he made hundreds of cars. So
Who was that?
that's an S scaler by the name of, gosh, what was his name? Oh gosh, I can't remember his name. He was up in the like the Boston area, Massachusetts somewhere.
The technique reminds me of the Joe Fisher cars.
Yeah. Okay. I've heard of him.
You know that name.
Yeah, I know Joe Fisher. Yeah, there he is. There's Gib.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think, oh gosh, what was that guy's name? Oh, that's really bad that I can't remember it.
Fisher published his technique on how he laminated up cars.
There's the drawing that I showed in the picture of.
Wow, that's amazing.
You have to go back to 49 and Craftsman for
Yeah.
Fisher's articles.
Yeah, no, there's a picture of one of his cars. See, that's, that's HO scale in 1959. That guy did a beautiful job.
How many X-Acto blades did you go through to try to build a car like that without a laser?
I don't know. I can't imagine that he put together all those transom windows.
That's phenomenal.
Wouldn't you like to be able to sit down with him and talk to him?
Boy, would I. Yes, absolutely.
I don't think he talks too much.
Amen.
He actually was he worked for the Canadian Pacific, so he probably had some interesting railroad tales to tell too. So
Yeah. It's really too bad back in that time period that they didn't do something like they're doing for the World War II veterans and Korean War veterans, where they can tell their specific story and you can actually record it and so forth, because the knowledge that those people had and being able to hear exactly how they did it and the mistakes that they made and how they corrected them, to me, it would have been fascinating. Anybody got any more questions for Jamie? Jamie, thanks so much for doing this. I really do appreciate it. And you've opened a lot of our eyes, I hope, about what's involved with this technology and how easy it may be to use. So thanks so much for doing it.
oh, you're welcome. And like I said, if I pushed a few people down the road, that's good. And like I said, my goal is not to tell you exactly how to do it, but to tell you, you can do it, get out there and try it.
Fantastic. Well, that's it for this show. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you learned something, more importantly. Our next show is Saturday, August the 7th. Our featured modeler is going to be Nick from Nick's Hobby Shop. And he's got a special, and then we've got special segments by David Ritz, who's going to be doing the card build along that Paul designed. And Earl Hackett is going to build his new switch machine that we have never seen before. And then, of course, we'll have our quick tips for you. So again, I hope you've learned something. I hope you've enjoyed it. And I hope you'll come back often and tell your friends about us. If you have any comments or suggestions for the future shows, we'd love to hear from you. Please let us know. If you have any questions about modeling, there's a form to fill out on our website. Please let us know. Thanks so much for coming again. And we'll see you next time. Thank you.